Mark was a professional poker player, renowned for his exceptional skill in reading people and bluffing with mastery. His career was marked by a series of victories, achieved not only through his impeccable strategy but also by his almost supernatural ability to detect the slightest nuances in others' behavior. Each game was a stage for him, where he not only competed against opponents but also played with their emotions and intentions. Emma, his wife, was a figure of unparalleled charisma. With a magnetic presence and a natural ability to socialize, she was the center of attention at any gathering or event. Her knack for captivating those around her made her a beloved figure in Mark's circle of friends. They were often seen as the perfect couple, she, with her innate charm, and he, with his ability to maintain an unperturbed facade. Among the couple's closest friends was Jason, a successful businessman who, like Mark, knew how to stand out in the competitive world of business. Jason was more than a friend, he was a confidant to Mark, someone with whom he shared not only the poker table but also moments of camaraderie and mutual respect. Their friendship seemed solid, a foundation of trust that appeared unshakable. However, behind the facade of an ideal marriage and a vibrant social life, Mark began to sense that something was amiss. Despite the apparent harmony in his marital life and the admiration of his social circle, a growing sense of discomfort began to haunt him. There was something about the dynamic of his relationship with Emma that didn't seem right, and Mark, with his keen perception, could not ignore the subtle hints that the perfection he saw might not be as real as it seemed. In recent months, Mark started to notice subtle but disturbing changes in Emma's behavior. She was becoming increasingly distant, spending long hours staring at her phone, always distracted and distant when he tried to initiate a conversation. The frequent outings, once sporadic, had become a constant in her routine, and Mark couldn't help but notice her diminishing interest in spending time with him. Emma's nightly conversations, once filled with enthusiasm and sharing, were now brief and evasive. There was an air of secrecy in her behavior, a subtle change in the small things, the time she left, the way she hid her phone when receiving messages, and the way she started going out more often without providing detailed explanations. These details, which might have gone unnoticed before, began to accumulate and form a pattern that Mark could not ignore. His ability to read people, honed by years of poker experience, was now alerting him to a different kind of game. Mark began to suspect that Emma was involved in an extramarital affair. Her behavior, so out of character, was a clear sign to him, even if the evidence was still indirect. Instead of confronting her immediately, Mark decided to take a more cautious approach. He knew that to reveal the truth, he needed to gather concrete evidence and understand the extent of the situation without alerting Emma to his suspicions. Thus, Mark chose to investigate discreetly. Without revealing his concerns, he started to observe more closely, looking for any detail that could confirm his suspicions. Each change in Emma's behavior, each message received at inconvenient times, was now a clue he meticulously analyzed. The game he was about to play required patience and strategy, and Mark was determined to play it with the same mastery he applied to poker tables. On a cold and silent night, Mark decided to follow Emma, determined to uncover the truth about his suspicions. He saw her leave the house with an anxious look and a small handbag, a combination that seemed different from the usual. Mark kept a discreet distance, ensuring that she did not see him. His mind was focused, and every move Emma made was analyzed with the precision of a poker player. Emma headed to an elegant restaurant, where Mark watched her enter and make her way to a reserved table in a more secluded corner. After a few minutes of waiting, Jason arrived. The scene unfolding before Mark's eyes was a confirmed nightmare. Emma and Jason were clearly engaged in an intimate conversation, their gestures and glances revealing a connection far beyond friendship. The way they touched and the way their smiles met were undeniable evidence of an affair. Mark felt a mix of anger and frustration witnessing the scene. However, contrary to what many might expect, he did not react with bursts of fury or impulsive confrontations. Instead, Mark remained calm, his behavior meticulously controlled. He knew the situation required a strategic approach, and his emotions could not undermine his plans. With his worst suspicions confirmed, Mark began to devise a detailed plan for revenge. He knew that Jason was not just a friend of Emma's but also a regular player at the poker nights Mark organized. This factor gave Mark a strategic advantage. He planned to use the next poker game for his revenge, setting a trap that would not only reveal the betrayal but also ensure that Jason paid for his role in destroying Mark's marriage. Mark spent the following days meticulously preparing his plan. Every detail was considered to ensure that the moment of revelation would be impactful and effective. He knew that the situation required flawless execution and was determined to ensure that his plan unfolded without a hitch. The betrayal he had uncovered would become the centerpiece of a more complex game, and Mark was ready to use it to restore his dignity and seek justice. In the days that followed, Mark immersed himself in a meticulous strategy, both for the poker game and for his personal life planning. The discovery of Emma's affair with Jason was not only a devastating blow to him but also an opportunity to use his cunning and skill in a new game, one he was determined to win. He began to gather detailed evidence of the affair, documenting every suspicious interaction, every exchanged message, and every clandestine outing Emma and Jason had. Mark knew that to secure a decisive advantage during the divorce proceedings, he needed a solid amount of evidence. Every detail was important, and he recorded everything precisely, preparing to present the truth clearly and indisputably. In addition to gathering evidence, Mark discreetly sought the help of a lawyer. He wanted to ensure that the prenuptial agreement was rigorously enforced and that Emma had no claim to any of the assets he had accumulated. With an experienced lawyer by his side, Mark reviewed the contract and made the necessary adjustments to ensure that she would leave the marriage with nothing, except perhaps the pain and shame of being exposed. At the same time, Mark manipulated the upcoming poker night with calculated precision. He knew Jason was a regular at his games and decided this would be the perfect moment to execute his plan. He organized the poker night to ensure Jason would be present and raised the stakes to a level that would undoubtedly capture everyone's attention. The stage was set for a confrontation, and Mark was determined to make Jason feel comfortable and confident, exactly where he wanted him to be. Every move Mark made was calculated to ensure his strategy would not only reveal the betrayal but also turn it into a spectacle that would leave Jason and Emma with no escape. He was about to execute a plan that, like his poker games, required patience, precision, and a perfect read of the situation. Mark prepared the poker night with meticulous care, transforming his home into the perfect setting for the confrontation that was about to take place. The environment was carefully arranged to create a high-tension and exciting atmosphere. He set up a high-quality poker table, with chips gleaming under the lights and a selection of fine drinks to accompany the game. Among the guests were his closest friends, including Jason and Emma. Mark made sure everyone felt comfortable and welcomed, maintaining a mood of camaraderie and good cheer. Emma, unaware of what was about to happen, was lively and socializing with the other guests, her charming presence as always. She had no idea that Mark already knew about the affair and that this night would be a stage for something far beyond a simple game. Jason, on the other hand, was at the peak of confidence. His smile was self-satisfied, and his behavior exuded a confidence bordering on arrogance. He believed not only that he had control of the poker table but also that he had the upper hand in the situation with Emma. Jason saw himself as someone who dominated both the cards and Mark's life, dismissing any possibility of a setback. The poker table was set up in the center of the room, surrounded by comfortable chairs and with soft lighting that created a cozy yet tense environment. Mark's friends, all involved in the game and conversation, contributed to an atmosphere that seemed cheerful and relaxed. There were laughs and animated conversations as the cards were dealt and the bets placed. Behind the facade of a friendly night, Mark was in full execution of his plan. Every action, every smile, and every word were calculated to avoid raising suspicion. He interacted with the guests, participated in conversations, and appeared engaged in the game, while internally, every movement was meticulously planned to lead to an inevitable climax. As the night progressed, the poker game became more intense, and Mark continued to play his role to perfection. The environment, although seemingly light and relaxed, concealed an underlying tension that Mark managed skillfully. He was ready to put his strategy into action and reveal the truth at the precise moment, turning the poker night into a stage for a dramatic and decisive revelation. As the poker game advanced, the tension in the room grew. Mark, with his skill in reading and manipulating people, decided to adopt a calculated strategy. He began to deliberately lose hands, allowing Jason to accumulate a significant amount of chips. Each of Mark's losses seemed to boost Jason's confidence, who began to believe that his luck was unstoppable. Jason, now at the peak of his self-confidence, was becoming increasingly bold. The feeling of invincibility was evident in his behavior, and he couldn't hide his satisfied smile as he dominated the game. He believed that luck was on his side and that nothing could divert him from victory. Emma watched the scene with a mix of nervousness and concern. She noticed that Mark was suddenly less aggressive and seemed uncomfortable with the direction of the game, but she had no idea that this was part of a much larger plan. To her, Mark's behavior seemed somewhat peculiar but without a clear explanation. The game continued, and the atmosphere in the room was charged with an almost palpable tension. Mark, maintaining composure and control, waited for the right moment for his final move. When he felt Jason's confidence had peaked, he decided it was time to act. With a calm gesture, he made his final bet, an all-in that left the pot for the night enormous. The chips piled up in the center of the table, and the bet was so high that the tension became almost unbearable. Jason, taken by his confidence in his luck and the certainty that Mark was just playing with him, called the bet without hesitation. His look was one of assurance, firmly believing he had won. He was about to discover that the confidence he had built up during the night was exactly what Mark needed to deliver the final blow. With an enigmatic smile, Mark revealed his cards. What was about to happen would transform the poker night into a spectacle of revelations and consequences, where every move and every bet would culminate in the exposure of the truth that Jason and Emma had tried so hard to conceal. The decisive moment arrived. Mark revealed the cards one by one with a calm that contrasted with the palpable tension in the room. As each card was exposed, what initially seemed like an ordinary hand began to transform into something extraordinary. The final revelation came with a silent bang. Mark had a royal flush. The perfect hand he displayed was unbeatable, and the colossal pot he had amassed was now in his hands. The reaction in the room was immediate and full of shock. Mark's friends were stunned, their eyes fixed on the cards that guaranteed absolute victory. As the murmur of surprise and disbelief spread, Mark maintained an unperturbed demeanor, his face a mask of serenity while those around him began to process what had just happened. Taking advantage of the distraction caused by his overwhelming victory, Mark stepped forward, the environment around him becoming a stage for the unfolding he had planned with such care. Without wasting time, he began to reveal the truth that had been hidden beneath the surface of the poker night. Mark pulled out a folder he had prepared in advance, displaying photos, text messages, and other documents detailing the affair between Emma and Jason. The evidence was presented with calculated coldness. Images of secret meetings, messages exchanged in intimate moments, and other personal details were shown to everyone. Each piece of evidence was another stab at the illusion of confidence Jason and Emma had built. The impact of the revelations was profound. The room fell into a deafening silence as the gravity of the betrayal sank into every face. Shock and disbelief were evident as Mark's friends processed what they were seeing and hearing. What had seemed like an evening of entertainment and camaraderie now turned into a scene of confrontation and revelation, where the truth was being presented in an indisputable manner. Mark remained unshaken, watching the emotional chaos unfolding around him. With the confidence of someone who knew he had played his cards masterfully, he watched as Jason and Emma faced the weight of their exposed lies. The confrontation had begun, and the impact of the revelations was just starting to be felt. The revelation of the evidence left Emma and Jason completely disoriented and embarrassed. Emma, with a pale face and tear-filled eyes, desperately tried to find words to justify her actions. She turned to Mark, her voice trembling as she begged for forgiveness. "Mark, please, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake, I never wanted it to come to this. We can work this out, I'll do anything to make things right." Mark, maintaining an expression of cold determination, was not swayed. His eyes, cold and calculating, fixed on Emma with unrelenting certainty. "There is nothing you can say now that will change what happened. The trust one had in you has been destroyed, and what you did is unforgivable." As Emma desperately tried to remedy the situation, Jason was in an even more difficult position. The pride and confidence he had displayed throughout the night quickly dissipated. His reputation, carefully built over the years, was in ruins. The friends around him, who had admired and respected him, now expressed a mix of disbelief and disgust. Whispers and murmurs of disapproval filled the room as Jason faced the impact of his exposed actions. The atmosphere in the room was one of shock and repulsion, and Mark's words only emphasized the weight of the situation. Mark addressed Emma directly, his voice firm and authoritative. "Our relationship is over. I have taken care of all the legal aspects, and from now on, you will have no claim to anything. There is nothing more to discuss." Emma, visibly shaken and defeated, tried to protest, but her words came out without conviction. The weight of the truth and the certainty that there was no turning back were overwhelming. Jason, in a state of deep embarrassment, could do nothing more than shrink in his own shame. Mark maintained absolute control of the situation, his unwavering stance demonstrating that there was no room for regret or reconciliation. The poker night, which had started as a simple game, had become a stage for the public downfall of Emma and Jason, and Mark, with his meticulously planned strategy, ensured that both faced the consequences of their betrayals. The day after the devastating confrontation, Mark wasted no time in proceeding with his final actions. He prepared the divorce papers with precision and, with the same determination with which he had played his cards the previous night, handed Emma the documents that would seal the end of their marriage. The division of assets was done mercilessly. Emma would have no access to any of the assets they had built together. Mark had ensured that his legal position was solid, leaving Emma without financial support or resources. Emma received the papers with visible despair. Her world, which had seemed to be collapsing after the revelations of the previous night, was now formally concluded with the delivery of the divorce. She tried to absorb the impact of Mark's decision, but the words and documents were clear and unrelenting. The security she had in her previous life was destroyed, and she now found herself in a precarious and hopeless situation. Meanwhile, Jason faced the consequences of his betrayal in a public and painful manner. His position of success and prestige within the social circle was completely shattered. Gossip and comments about his behavior spread rapidly among friends and acquaintances. The admiration he once enjoyed was replaced by contempt and repulsion. What had once been a symbol of success and respect was now viewed with disdain and disapproval. Mark, on the other hand, began to find a new path for his life. Feeling a profound sense of closure and justice, he started the process of rebuilding his life. The weight of betrayal and lies that had loomed over him was lifted, giving him space to move forward. With the clarity provided by the resolution of his situation, Mark dedicated himself to rebuilding his personal and professional life, free from the ties of a past that now seemed distant. He found a new purpose, embracing the opportunities and challenges that lay ahead. The poker game, which had initially served as a means to expose the betrayal, now symbolized a turning point in his life. Mark was ready to move on, with a new perspective and renewed determination to seize the future with all the possibilities it offered. The sense of having overcome betrayal and injustice became a driving force for a new beginning, stronger and wiser than before. The outcome of the story shows Mark in a position of triumphant achievement. He rose from the ashes of a tumultuous past, not just as the winner of an epic poker night, but as a true conqueror of the greater game of life. The poker game, which had been the stage for his calculated revenge, now symbolized his personal victory and mastery over the adversities he had faced. As the night drew to a close and the final words were exchanged, Mark reflected on the journey he had taken. He deeply understood how his exceptional skills in reading people and his unshakable patience had been crucial in transforming a devastating betrayal into a victory that brought a sense of justice and closure. Every move he made, every strategy he planned, and every decision he took were pieces of a larger puzzle that fit perfectly to reveal the truth and provide the resolution he sought. The final scene is a powerful contrast to the turmoil of the recent past. Mark, now stronger and wiser, steps away from the old life he once knew. The poker night, with all its revelations and dramas, is left behind as he strides towards a future filled with new possibilities. His steps are firm and determined, reflecting the internal transformation he underwent. The horizon before him is vast and promising, and Mark is ready to embrace the new chapter of his life. The feeling of victory is palpable, not only from winning the game but from the personal triumph of overcoming betrayal and rebuilding his life. He ends the journey with renewed confidence and optimism that prepares him to face any challenge that lies ahead. The story concludes with Mark moving forward, determined and strengthened, ready to explore a bright future, knowing that the lessons he learned made him not just a winner in the poker game, but in all aspects of life. And so, we come to the end of this intense journey of betrayal, strategy, and justice. Mark, with his astuteness and courage, not only won the poker game but also reclaimed control of his life, emerging stronger and wiser than ever. His story reminds us that even in the darkest moments, determination and patience can turn adversities into victories. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more thrilling narratives like this one, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel, Only Stories About Men. Your support is crucial for us to continue bringing more engaging and impactful stories. Leave your comment below and share your thoughts with us. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story.